Hello, I want to give you a tour of this 1988 AM General Humvee. My name is Chris, and I get a lot of questions about this truck when I'm out in town, driving around, going to the boat ramp, and out in the parks. And so I thought I'd give you an opportunity to see what it is and why I'm sitting here on it today. So I put together a list of some questions, and I'll share those with you. So first of all, what is it? Well, this is indeed an actual AM General military Humvee. It's also called an M998, and the actual Humvee comes from the letters High Mobility Multi-Wheeled Vehicle. YouTube is full of videos, even US government videos that talk about these vehicles, that tell you all kinds of details, and I'm going to spare you that as a historian of the facts because you can go learn those on your own. Let's talk about this truck. So this particular model has the 6.2 liter diesel engine. Like a lot of these Humvees, the military actually reworked it several times over its career. So the engine has been rebuilt. Various modifications have been done to it, including the seat belts and braces and different parts throughout the years. This vehicle was released to the public around 2014 as part of a regular government auction. So another question that I get on this truck quite frequently is, how did I get it? So it's a good question. The government started releasing these to the public through GovPlanet or Iron Planet auctions around the country, and this particular truck was sold somewhere around 2014. The fellow that I got it from bought it. He did the bid online. There's a long process you go through to fill out some paperwork, and you have to wait on everything to clear. And then this one actually sold out of the Michigan area. We are currently in central Illinois. He went to Michigan, trailered it, brought it home. So he had it for a little while and really didn't do a whole lot with it. In fact, at some point in time, it ended up just sitting out in the field about the time that I found it. I'd been looking for one of these. I actually had gone and test driven several of them, looked around the country at different places that offer them for sale, and had almost given up on picking one up. And a friend of mine sent me a link to a Facebook marketplace where this was advertised for sale. I reached out to the seller, went out, took it for a drive. It was a very cold November morning, and we'll never forget that because my wife and my son were in the passenger seat. The fellow got it started up, it added some fluids to it, and of course it was cold out, and these vehicles are sort of an open cockpit anyway. The doors were off of it at the time, and I reached down and turned the heater on, and the moment I did that, a rodent of some sort had been living in the heater core, and all of that stuff just came out like an explosion in her face and all throughout the cab. And not a real pleasant way to try to talk the wife into bringing something like this home, but she's seen me drag home some pretty sad cases that we've rebuilt and put back together. So while she probably holds that against me to this day, it wasn't a big deal. Anyway, we drove it around. For the most part, everything worked, and I had a John Deere Gator at the time. Loved the John Deere Gator. It was an 850 RSXi. It was the performance model, tilt bed, composite bed, of course just a two-seater, and he was looking for something that maybe he could trade or sell, and I was looking for something that I could use obviously with the Humvee, so we actually struck a deal, and I traded the John Deere Gator plus a little bit of cash for the Humvee. So a lot of questions following how did I get it, follow how is it that I'm able to drive it and use it on the street. So it's a little bit of a controversial question for a lot of people, and there have been issues with those. These are offered in different formats when they're sold in terms of street legal or not street legal. I ultimately worked with a company, and this is not an endorsement, this is not a paid for advertisement. I worked with a company called Dirt Legal. They specialize in helping with titles and registrations and helping with vehicles that may have initially been intended for off-road use. They were able to assist me, and it worked out just fine. Took a little bit of time, but they were able to get the paperwork, and this truck is actually insured with my standard auto insurance company like a regular truck. So when I drive on the street, I have a registration, I have license plates, and I have insurance on this. So if anything happens, I'm covered either way. There are other ways of doing that, but it worked out just fine for me. So the next question that you get with something like this is, What have you done to it since you've had it? So made a list of things here, and I guarantee I'm going to miss something, but we'll go over it with you. These trucks actually require a lot of maintenance. They're not as maybe durable as you might think they are in terms of being a tough, rugged military truck. Lots of things have to be done and have to be checked on a regular basis. Like I told you, the fellow I bought it from, he kind of let it sit. He wasn't doing a lot with it. Truck was pretty full of leaves and debris and rodent nests and things like this. So it required an awful lot of cleaning when I first brought it home. And right off the bat, the water pump was leaking. On most vehicles, changing, especially trucks, changing a water pump is pretty straightforward. This right here is an animal to change a water pump on. Requires the entire cooling module, all the front end off of the truck. And that was my first lesson on getting to know this Humvee, was dealing with a water pump. The rodent nest had actually eaten into the heater core and ate away the metal around it, and the heater core was leaking. So obviously, as soon as I get it started, I've got the new water pump in it. I put all new hoses, put new thermostat, new clamps, cleaned up and painted all of the connections, new radiator cap, all the kind of stuff that you would normally do to a vehicle. I did all that, and of course I find out that the heater core is leaking. Replaced the heater core, took everything in that box out, cleaned it, painted it, disinfected it, and replaced all of the tubing that runs back and forth to divert the air. I also got lucky with this model. This one has the dual volt system. So your basic 6.2 liter Detroit diesel Humvee setup for the military was 24 volt. 2 batteries under the seat and 24 volt system. This one has the dual alternator with 24 and 12 volt. The way that it was when I picked it up, the 12 volt system had been capped off, turned off. So there's a lot of information out there online, tremendous resources from places like Steel Soldiers, which is a forum that I frequent for information. And within the 24 volt system, I was able to split the 12 volt off. 12 volt was pretty important because I did add some other things to this truck. I added multiple ports for power outlets to charge devices. I added a stereo system to the truck that uses a subwoofer that's Bluetooth, connects and runs on 12 volt. I also added trailer lights to the Humvee. The trailer lights run on 12 volt. And after doing some reading and some thinking, I came up with my own system of actually using the 12 volt constant power pull off and a series of relays on the 24 volt blinkers and running lights. I was able to set up fully functional trailer lights on this off the NATO trailer plug into a standard 7-pin plug. I added a trailer hitch to it, a standard trailer hitch. I removed the rocker start switch and installed a keyed ignition. I had originally bought one of the kind of popular basic keyed ignition systems, but honestly I found the quality of that was fairly poor. So I went to a heavier duty style universal automotive ignition key switch that looks like a very standard General Motors key in place of that. Within the gauge system, I added a 12 volt, 24 volt digital voltmeter so I could keep an eye on both of my voltage. The Humvee does not have a glove box. It has hardly anything that you can put storage in. So we found a neat little camo bag and bolted it to the instrument panel and made a place that you can put the registration, paperwork, and honestly, actually gloves in the truck. I added cup holders. In my case, cup holders that's a trip to the hardware store, some PVC pipe, some green camo paint, and we have a place now to put a drink when we're riding around. Other things I've done, I added an interior light to it off of the, actually that runs off the 24 volt system, and it is extremely bright. I found out with the windows and the removable doors on here that you can actually polish them back. They were so scratchy and dirty you couldn't see out of them. So high-speed buffing wheel and some car polish, and I'm able to make the windows clean and clear again. Other things that we've done, I had trouble with the glow plug system for the sensors that go into the top of the intake. I've replaced that. Of course, I've changed fluids. We've put new brakes in it, and that's new brake pads, and I've pulled the differentials front and rear out, resealed them. I've replaced the axles in the truck. The fellow I bought it from had actually broken the 2 front axles previously, horsing around, and I had a problem with the rear axle back here. Neat thing is, a lot of this stuff is available. Most of everything is available for, and oftentimes, very affordable prices. One of the major modifications that I made to it was to work on this back area of the truck. So I found this divider, which is good for the two-man setup, and it provides a good protective area, so if there's things in the bed, it's not going to slide up and get into the cab with you. And added that. All of these trucks come with the capability of having 4 doors and 4 seats. All of them do. This one was a 2-door configuration, and for me, the solution was pretty darn simple. I've come to really appreciate and enjoy the 2-door setup, the open cabin back here, and yes, I use this truck to haul things. So this open area is great. But what I actually did is I went in and I cut the original doors out of the back. They're not really doors, they're little plate covers for the pickup 2-man style. I removed some material, I bought some soft door hinges and hardware, and after a bit of working in the garage, I was able to convert the blanked off panels into functional doors. Went to a surplus store, bought bottom pads for the seats, and this particular model actually already had all of the seatbelt systems in it for a 4-man, but they were just tucked down in the floor. I was able to get those set up, bolted in, and for safety being important to me, especially because we do drive it on the street, I was able to purchase new seatbelt assemblies for it. These things take a beating out here in the exposed part of the bed, and I wanted to make sure that those were fresh. I've replaced a couple of the gauges. I've had some problems where it looked like it was overheating. It actually wasn't overheating. This also uses something they call a Cadillac valve, and that functions the cooling fan for the engine. And anyone that's experienced these, I just have to tell you, when the cooling fan kicks on, it sounds like you're dropping out of orbit from the space shuttle. It lights up everything inside the cab with a it runs for a little while on a timer, it kicks back out, and you're back to the normal road noises that occur. When I first got it, that Cadillac valve was bad, and the default for the Humvee is to keep the cooling fan always connected, which is smart, to keep you from overheating. So this one was running continuous. I noticed sort of a lack of power, a little bit of difficulty getting up and running, and after a little bit of diagnostics, I found out that that was bad. So a lot of maintenance in general. And you know, there are other things. Replaced the throttle valve on it. I added the LED lights to the front. And the biggest, most expensive conversion so far was the tires. So a lot of these Humvees you'll find have what look like really great tires, lots of tread, they look wonderful. You look a bit closer and you realize that they're old. So a little PSA I'm going to give you: if you've got tires that are more than 6 years old on anything that you drive, get rid of them. I don't care how nice they look, they're dangerous. The Humvee has a 16.5-inch rim, which is not super popular for off-road truck tires and available aftermarket things that are out there. But a company that everyone's familiar with, Super Swampers, which is actually Interco, Super Swampers, they make a direct replacement tire for this, their Truxis model, which is the 37 by 12.5 on the 16.5-inch rim. So I went with a Trail Fab worthy bead lock replacement. That's a dual bead lock that goes in and replaces the run flat. And I tell you what, actually on my channel, and I'll link it somewhere around here, you're going to be able to take a look at and see the video on how we change the tires. So that really covers the modifications. There's, again, things I'm not even thinking about right now, but overall, I've been able to go in and do quite a bit of maintenance on it, quite a bit of things to change, and right now, pretty happy with the particular modifications that I have. And we'll take a look and see what other question that we have. So, you know, a lot of people ask me, what do you do with it? That's a good question, because quite honestly, nobody needs something like this. But, you know, if you needed it, that wouldn't make it any fun. One of my coworkers, when I told him that I was buying one of these, he was in the military and he drove these. He actually was detailed for this assignment. And I have not been, full disclosure, I've not been in the military. So I don't have any history with these from been there, done that back in the day. I remember growing up during Desert Storm, seeing these things on television as it was happening, as the battle was unfolding, and they were such a mystery to me. I didn't know what they were, and as time has gone on and we've seen them on the battlefield and we've seen different things that have happened in the military and the places around the world that these have traveled, whether they've been bringing humanitarian efforts, whether they've been bringing justice, whether they're just carrying supplies on a routine mission. These things have been all over the world, and they come in so many different configurations and so many styles. And I think a lot of people have an idea in their mind what they are. And I've even heard politicians and other people that refer to these as war machines. And, you know, to me, it's a truck. It's just a truck. It's a great truck, and it's a lot of fun. So what do I do with this truck? Well, you know, I got a list here, and it's not that long of a list, but I haul my boat with it. I can't think of a better vehicle to take to the lake than this. If I'm out and we've been riding on the skis or tubing and we're soaking wet from swimming, you can pick the boat out of the water, you can get in here, and there's absolutely nothing in this truck that you're going to hurt. Parts runs. You can imagine that this isn't the only vehicle that I work on or that I do things with, and it is so handy just to hop in it and run up to the auto parts store and pick up things that I need. Hardware store and the lumber yard. The bed on here, when you fold down the tailgate from the bulkhead that I installed back and you can pop down the seats, it's a full 8-foot bed to the tip of the tailgate, 7-foot bed without it. So with an 8-foot bed, I can put a lot of stuff in here. And the truck, I believe, is like rated at a 2¼ ton. So it will carry an awful lot. It won't carry it fast, but it'll carry an awful lot of weight. And so this truck with a tarp in it, I've been able to haul tons and tons of gravel. I've been able to haul 2x4s and drywall and plywood. And so for a project truck and going to the hardware store or to the home improvement store, it's great. Camping. I've actually had a slide-in truck camper that fit in here and was able to work and take this thing off-road and be able to camp in places that you could never camp with a regular pickup truck or nowhere that you'd want to go. And so slide-in truck camper works in it. And camping in general, you've got lots of space back here that you can do things. And of course, just running errands. And we've even had the occasional car show event with this. Our local town, thanks to the pandemic, have had rolling car show events, and we've had fun going out and popping the doors off and just riding around and letting people take a look at this while it's in action. So I find a lot of things that I can do with it. And even in the yard, if we want to pick up trash or we want to haul tree limbs or move things around, it works great. And towards the evening, taking my wife and my son out to the park and driving around the park where we can see some wildlife, it's an awful lot of fun. So, you know, it's got a lot of purposes. And one of the really, really cool things about it, unlike my Silverado and whatnot, I don't even have to wash this. In fact, I think this truck looks better and better and better the dirtier and dirtier that you get it. So that's pretty neat. And wax, you don't need wax. So that's what I use the truck for. All right, so let me take you for a ride. Sunglasses on. Fun to begin. And safety first, always. All right, if you ever find yourself having to drive one of these things, go over a couple quick items with you before you get going. First of all, there is no park, okay? It's important. When you put this thing up all the way forward, that's reverse. You have reverse, neutral, drive, 2 and 1, and then you have your transfer case for your high and low range and your neutral in the transfer case. But there is no park. Important to remember. Also, it has a neutral safety switch, so if you're not in neutral, won't matter, it won't start anyway. But here's what you do. You get in your Humvee, you make sure your brake is set, you make sure you're neutral, you make sure your transfer case is set up in the gear that you intend to travel, and you're gonna reach over here and turn it on. Now if the engine's cold, you're gonna turn the key to the start position, you're gonna get a little yellow wait light. You'll wait till that goes out, then you'll start it up. But once you've got her warmed up, light doesn't come on, starts right up, you're ready to go. You got to hold your foot on the brake, release the parking brake, and now I can select my drive. Obviously, seat belt, check your mirrors, check all of the positions around you, and you're ready to ride. So let's get up on the road.